Hey guys, hope everyone's well. MKS again here. Back here in another video. Also, the hoodie's back. What do you think about that? For anyone who watched some of my old videos, I used to wear this hoodie quite a lot. So I'm out of breath already. Thought I'd make a part 2 of this video as planned about tax being enforced tax being a form of robbery. Controversial topic, I know, because I know that not everyone's going to agree. Sorry, excuse me. As I said before, I'd love to hear your opinions. I think I just decided to make this video, and I didn't really think much of the content I'm going to include, but I'll try not to be too boring. But yeah, I'd love to ask you what you think of this hoodie. But anyway, one of the things I forgot to mention, I was going to mention this at the end, but I think I've sort of forgot. I didn't really think much about what I'm going to say in this video, but one of the things I forgot to mention in my last video is I was going to end by saying that's why any profit from this video will go towards cutting people's tax. And I'd love to make videos about, I know I should be careful what I say, because some people are going to be haters or whatever, will not like that someone has a different opinion, but alternatives to the tax system or awkward truths about the tax system. I've thought about, again, going back to my 30-point list, about awkward truths about tax, about how it's used for things like wars or potential corruption or things like that, or is forced. It's not like, it's obviously it's forced. So really, to me, the opposite of freedom is forced. So a lot of people say they want to support freedom, or they're against a nanny state or things like that. Here in the UK, they say, I don't know if they use the same sort of terms in America, but people talk about they support freedom here in the UK, and through in other countries it's similar. But a lot of people also say they want higher taxes, especially on richer people. But I think in some countries, I'm not sure if it's still the same, but Hong Kong a while back, someone interviewed them and they said they think tax is a punishment and only the richest people pay it, and it's still quite a small amount, but their economy might work differently. So I'd love to hear, a lot of people argue that that tax is necessary to pay for services. So I'd love to hear what you think about that. Is it really necessary as much as the government thinks, or are there alternative ways? I think before we raise any taxes, I think we should cut back on government waste, like politicians having huge expenses, wasteful projects. Politicians, perhaps people might argue, offer a lot of free things, especially to young people, and say, we're going to give this for free. As I say, there's no such thing as a free lunch. A lot of people will have to pay a long term, and a lot of people arguing, rightly or wrongly. Again, I don't want to offend anyone, but I think Corbyn does seem, Jeremy Corbyn, sorry, does seem to have some good principles. I like his anti-war stance. I like that he's trying to help the poor, apparently. Sometimes the proof is in the pudding. Wait, if he gets into office, see what he actually does. Because a lot of people probably thought the same about Tony Blair when he got into office, and he took us to wars and he did lots of things what people don't like. He might have done a few good things, but a lot of people say that markets will be scared. Some people call this scaremongering, but they say the markets will be scared about if he tries to to tax people too much or things like that. So I'd love to hear what people think about if you tax too much, will the markets be scared? One of the things Jeremy Corbyn talks about is having broadband for everyone, but in the UK, but taxing companies like Apple or Google. I was talking to someone about it. I said, how can you tax Apple or Google, companies like big tech companies, on profits unless they actually make them from the UK directly? Like, surely you can't tax them on profits they make from other countries, and because they're American companies, surely you can't just slap a tax on them, because excuse me, sorry. Surely you can't just slap a tax on them and expect that tax is going to, when they make profits from overseas, and also they're not British companies. But I don't know if that's, I think this guy was saying that they make, maybe I was being naive, because he said they make, like companies like Google make money in the UK and then use that profit overseas or offshore. So I don't know if you could do that or not. For me personally, I love sport. All the top tech ideas I have of sport people in Africa, so it's not a particular idea that I would be fond of, because I dream for Africa to lead in the tech space. So I do agree with some of Corbyn's stances, like people's QE or quantitative easing, or tackling wars and militarism. Whether he can stick to that one if he comes into office, I don't know. But I think taxing people, being anti-big business, anti-business, I'm not sure that's the right path. And also, some people argue like there was a brain drain in the past because people, I'm not that patriotic, but a lot of people who were wealthy, when they were taxed too high, left the UK to go somewhere else because they didn't have to pay as much tax. So, like one guy, actually, funny enough, a fellow dyslexic. Again, for anyone who's watched my previous videos, don't know, I'm slightly dyslexic myself, and I'm interested in dyslexic celebrities and stuff like that. But Jackie Stewart, a race car driver, is now the patron of the Dyslexia Association of Scotland, I think it is, said that he had to leave the UK because if something happened to him, his family wouldn't be looked after, but he had to pay huge amounts of tax at the same time. And so he went, I think he went to America. So they always talk about brain drain or stuff like that. But to me, it's just an issue of liberty, because I think, I wonder, if people have more money or do well financially, does that mean they should give up some of their liberty? As I say, to me, to tax people is a violation of liberty. I think the question is whether, and it's also, in my opinion, a legal form of robbery. So I think the question is, do you think that it's a justified form of robbery, if there is such a thing, and do you think that rich people should pay more, and that rich people should have some of their freedom taken away? So some of the ideas I have are like things like lotteries, which people pay like £1 to pay the lottery, and possibly there could be one winner who gets half the money, but the rest goes into tax to cut other people's taxes. So hopefully a lot of people play it because it's only £1 to play, but it would mean that half the money would go into paying for the services, so you could cut taxes, and perhaps there could be other things in place of tax. So, sorry, just heard my dog barking or something. I heard this. I thought I heard some sort of bang, so I'm a bit freaked out. But yeah, sorry. Hopefully it's just my imagination. But anyway, yeah. So as ever, I'd love to hear your opinions on these matters. As I said before, sorry, I drink my tea in between. It's just like I upload a video till I finish my tea, and then I move on. So yeah. So as I say, I'd love to hear your opinions. What do you think about tax, or what would you? Do you think that rich people should pay more taxes as some who got their fair share? Do you think that big companies, as I say, there should be more corporation tax or general taxes, especially on millionaires and billionaires, or ideas that companies, that politicians have come up with, like the mansion tax? I think these things are popular. Like some people say the government offers us free stuff, and obviously to pay for it, it's popular to say that they're going to tax just the rich. As again, some people say if Labour get into power, they're going to taxes will go up eventually for everyone, because they won't, even though there's a lot of rich people, even though rich people have a lot of money, it won't be as easy as they think to get all their money, and you're still going to need to pay other things. Again, some people say that's scaremongering from people who are afraid they're going to have to pay more tax, like the media. Obviously, right-wing media who make a lot of money are going to be against that sort of thing, which, in a way, I kind of don't blame them. But I think probably the way they challenge it is not is a bit disingenuous. Like they try and say Corbyn supports terrorism or things like that, which probably I think they do that to smear him. I don't know if they actually believe that, or maybe they do. I don't know. Because a lot of people say Corbyn, Jeremy Corbyn, to give him respect. They say he met with people like the IRA, but a lot of people say he had to do that to make negotiations, and sometimes you have to meet with people who are who are not particularly to negotiate with them. But again, I think some people on the left will support Corbyn no matter what, and they really do believe in these policies and say that you've got to make the rich pay more for healthcare, as they would call it, their fair share. And I think even the Conservatives have to come out and say we're going to tax the rich more, and it's quite popular to bash the rich and say they've got enough money or they've got too much money even, so we need to force them to pay more, and they're greedy to keep their money and things like that. But some people, I think the argument could be that a lot of people perhaps don't understand how the rich can still hide their money anyway, and it'll be the middle. Like in France, they put taxes up for the richest people. I think a lot of rich people left and went to London or other places, and so the tax revenue for the tax burden, if you want to call it that, or whatever, actually fell on the middle class of France. So they actually had to pay more, and they saw more of their income having to go to tax men. And a lot of people bash the middle class as well and say that if you're if a working class person, so to speak, you're probably going to say you don't have much sympathy for them, but their standard of living has been squeezed as well. And also, if something goes wrong for them, they don't always have a safety net to fall back on. So though a lot of people might think the middle class are well off or whatever, or don't need to work, but if they don't work, they suddenly they can find themselves in financial problems as well. Sorry, I'm probably waffling, but I probably should have planned this video a bit more. I went a bit off track talking about other areas of politics, but I know these are quite right-wing views in a way about fiscally conservative anyway. And I suppose the challenge is, for me, I want to support the poor, as I've talked about before, but I don't want it to be done through forcing people and saying you must pay more tax, or you must we must regulate businesses, or we must force them to lower their costs, or we must force them to do this or that. Because my issue is I think it's like I still want to support freedom. And for me, as I say, tax is a violation of freedom, and I've talked about obviously in the title and probably covered in some of these videos. I'd say I'd love to hear your opinions on this matter, and what sort of tax do you think would be fair for rich people to pay? Should they pay more taxes? Another argument some people make is that richer people also contribute more in ways like the big businesses. People don't look at the effect that they have in terms of employing people. They employ a lot of people. I know some people dispute that, but they say they like a big company employing 500 people. That's 500 people that they're employing, and if we make things difficult for them, then they're gonna, one, they might shed employees, and two, they might move their offices. I say I love to support people from Africa and places like that, especially Africa in terms of tech. And one of the things I think African countries could perhaps do is work with big tech companies and talk about tax incentives they could have. Again, I've talked about this in previous videos, where they could talk about having tax relief for big companies, but it's the taxes those big businesses, those big tech companies pay instead could be going into training young African software developers and people like that. And that would help people in Africa and also help those big companies as well. So both, it's a win-win situation for the big tech companies, but also for people in Africa. And it could help Africa dominate tech, because they would get trained up to work for those big tech companies, but those big tech companies would also benefit from those employment, and it could show that if you invest in African people, that the white supremacy of neo-Nazis, far-right people like that, say that African people can't achieve great things, and maybe if African tech companies could use the money they would normally pay in tax, and that's using tax money in a good way, but it's also that they get something back out of it. So I hope big tech companies will say, rather than paying taxes, they could Google could set up more offices in place in Africa, and I say use that money could be used as an incentive to train up more African people in tech, as I say, instead of something where the tech companies don't get much back out of it, arguably. Anyway, sorry, I know I've waffled. I was going to make a point about. I'm just going to make one more point about. I know people say that the roads and other things that big tech companies use those roads or those workers or other things, but I think this is directly a benefit. And as someone who supports African tech, I think it's. I say my challenge is to support the poor, but without forcing people to do so. But trying to do it in creative ways, but also allow people to make free choices. So I hope I didn't laugh too much. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it and appreciate your support. And please give me a like if you'd be so kind and share this video. Thanks. Peace out.